Hello, everyone. Welcome back. You are in for another episode of Unmuted Voices, Voices from the Womb. I am your host, Lexi. As always, thank you for your time, your energy, just being in this space with us. I truly appreciate you being here and tuning in. So, in the first episode, we really dove into what this podcast is even about, how it was birthed, how did it start, and all of that good jazz. And the second episode, we talked about my first time being pregnant, talked about the loss, miscarriage, horrible bedside manner of doctors. And in this episode, we're going to dive into my second pregnancy. So let me tell you, they told me I could not get pregnant. Crazy, right? I was pregnant within 2 months, which is wild. So let's dial back a little bit. I had came out of a relationship, was not looking for another one at all, was taking time to myself to heal, learn to be by myself, and also focus on my health. From both the mental standpoint, I have been in therapy for a few years. And at this point, I really have been diving more into my therapy journey and truly digging into my childhood trauma and starting to heal wounds that have been open for a very long time. I am a huge advocate of therapy. Therapy helps. And it also helped in dealing with the miscarriage. I thought I was over it because I'm like, okay, it wasn't meant to happen. That was the one that wasn't meant to live. This wasn't what God wanted for me. And I was not healed from it at all. I don't think you will ever be healed from that loss. I think that's something that you will always carry with you at some point in life. Nonetheless, I was in a place of healing. I was just on this journey of being by myself and bettering myself and really starting to focus myself. I mentioned to you guys, I am a serial entrepreneur. I love to dig into multiple things. And I found myself mentally burnt out and tired because I wanted to do everything at the same time. Now, I'm still working on this. I'm a work in progress. Nothing is easy. Perfect. We're working on it. So I lost my train of thought. It's all right though. We're going to keep it flowing. Um, at this point in life, things were just different. It was a place of isolation, to be honest. It was a place of rift in friendships. Luckily, a lot of those friendships have been repaired and are in great standing. Friends that are there for you, they are the ones that are your family. And family fight, and it's okay. And we come back together, and it's all love. But it was a very dark space, and I just really needed to be by myself. I did a lot of praying, a lot of manifesting, a lot of healing with my therapist. So I remember my best friend hit me up one day. I was cleaning. It was one of our other best friends' housewarmings. His fiance at the time, they're now married. They had bought their first house and they were having their housewarming. But I was in a space where I was just like, I don't want to go to anything. I don't want to be around people. I just want to be by myself. But my best friend was like, nah, you have to go. That's our boy. We're proud of him, whatever. You got to come show love. And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. And again, I love my best friend, but it was just, again, I was in this place of isolation and just being to myself and not wanting to be social. My social meter was at an all-time low around that time. And nonetheless, I took my dog Teddy with us. We rode over there together. So we got there. We're saying hi to everybody, and there was this guy there. Oh, he's handsome. Then I saw he had a young child. Didn't know how old he was. I was like, oh, he's cute, but he got a kid. He's probably taken. Next, and I just kind of kept it pushing. I didn't really think about it. They introduced us. It was my best friend's coworker, and he DJ'd as well, and I always have a connection of music in my life. I love music, as I mentioned, as a DJ. That's something that's very central. I love all music at that. And I looked at him, I was like, oh, you play music too? Okay. But I'm going to stay over here. I'm in my healing period. I want no parts. And you got a young child. You never know what the situation is. Because it was just him and his son. So I kind of kept it pushing, kept it cordial, kept it casual, and we kept it pushing. Now, fast forward a bit, we followed each other on Instagram and he would like a couple pictures. And then one day I get a DM and he's in my DMs talking to me. I'm like, oh, okay, hello, hi. He was inviting me to go to BRT weekend in Atlantic City. And I'm just like, I don't know about that. At the time, I was about to go to Guyana or whatever the case might be. And it was what it was. So at some point throughout that exchange, we ended up exchanging numbers. And I remember it very clearly. I went to go see my sis Kay out in Long Island. Much needed girl time, like so much needed. Like I said, it had been a dark place, a dark time in life, and at this point, I was getting to that point of, all right, we're getting somewhere, we're healing. Also, at this time, we were doing our MBA. I think I actually was taking a break from my MBA from Howard. Unfortunately, it had came to a semester where a professor just was not very nice to us. And imagine we helped everybody else pass and he failed us. So we had to take course over and something happened with credits and funding and I took a break. I was over it. It is what it is. It was kind of crazy. Now, I'm at Kay's house and he calls me when I'm on my way home, or I call him, or somehow we get on the phone. We end up on the phone for hours. Now, mind you, it was like an hour drive from Kay's house because she lives really, really deep. So we are talking, talking, talking. I swear to you, I got off the phone and I'm like, God sent my husband. Literally off of one conversation, like one actual conversation. I want to say we have been inseparable from that day in literal terms. We have spoken every single day. And at this point, it's now been like 3 years. But we started dating. I went to Guyana and we were inseparable on the phone every minute, could not stop talking to each other. When I got back, we actually started going on dates and started dating. And initially, because we were dating with intention, let me tell you, I made sure that I was very clear up front what I wanted from a relationship. And he was as well. And we were very much aligned. We wanted to have a family. We both wanted to buy a house. We both wanted to grow old with someone and, have this awesome relationship because both of his parents are married and he grew up with that. No, both of his parents being married. My parents eventually got married and, just seeing that type of love that you can have and just building a family. It was something we wanted, but we did not know that journey would start so quick. So, as I mentioned, he had a son. When I tell you, when I met him, he was like instantly my child. It sounds crazy, but it's like I gravitated to him, and that was my baby. No one could tell me otherwise. Like, his mother and I actually did have a great relationship starting out. We actually sat down and met. He set it up, for us to sit down and meet when we saw that we were getting serious, and he wanted her to be comfortable with whoever would be in his son's life. And when I tell you, I respected that so much about him. Like, I respected that he wanted to make sure that his child would be good, to make sure that though him and the mother are not together, that it would be a comfortable situation because nobody wants a headache. We are grown. And, that's something I always respected about him. Again, I said, God sent my husband. So, things were definitely great. And then I, again, like I said, have been going through some health things myself where the doctors were telling me that it was actually a possibility that I couldn't get pregnant or I may have difficulty getting pregnant. I have been going to a endocrinologist just to do some blood testing because my cycle was getting crazy. My female health was crazy. It was like I was having a period literally every 3 weeks on the around the clock. And for me, that was weird. Like the doctor kept saying it was normal, but just something just didn't feel normal. I'm like, do I have PCOS? Like, what is it? Because this is crazy. And I was feeling every part of my cycle. Like as a woman and as you get older, you realize that you know your body and you feel everything in your body, which is crazy. And we're back. Quick switch up. I had to go take care of the kids and get them together. They both woke up from their nap, and the job of a mom is never done. And so here we are. So as I was saying, I went to an endocrinologist, and pretty much they delivered results that
pretty much said that I would have a hard time getting pregnant if I was even able to get pregnant. And they delivered this message in an online portal in a message. The doctor didn't call me and say, hey, can you come into the office? The doctor didn't say, hey, we need to schedule a phone call to talk about your results. This man wrote this in a portal. Now, I was extremely upset. First of all, I didn't like the endocrinologist anyways. It was one that was recommended to me by one of my providers at the time through my job. I was doing a referral doctor from them, and it was a highly rated office in some part of Manhattan, with the rich people, to be honest. So it was supposed to be like a well-known doctor. And when I tell you, this man was like the nastiest person to me. He was a white male, just being completely transparent. And his demeanor just was not well. It didn't sit well with me. It didn't feel good when he was asking the questions that he was asking. Granted, he went through, he did all of the tests. He was thorough in explaining what he was testing for. But how do you just send someone results like that in a message? All right, so now getting back to my husband and I, we found out around that same time that I was pregnant. And at this point, we had only been together for 2 months. Remember, we just started dating. But again, keep in mind, I said God sent my husband. So I was very confident that we would be able to get through it. It was not easy. It was not an easy decision to decide to go through with the pregnancy because, again, we've only been together 2 months. And, within 2 months, you're still trying to date each other. You're still in somewhat of that honeymoon phase. You're in that, learning each other. It takes years to really truly learn somebody. And we had to like skip all of that to go into the mode of, okay, we decided we're going to raise this child and we're going to bring a child into the world. So the pregnancy, my doctor did tell me that I was going to be high risk. Not because of my age, because I think I was like 32 maybe, 31, 32, somewhere around there when I got pregnant with him, with our son. And I was also severely asthmatic. Luckily, my asthma has tamed down so much, but at the time I was on shots for my asthma. So I had to stop those shots for my asthma. And my doctor did put me in the high risk category because they weren't sure how pregnancy would impact my asthma, and then having had been on that medication and now being off of it. So for some additional support, I did want a doula for that pregnancy. My sister, I always remember her saying, whenever you have your first child, I think you should get a doula. So I went, I vetted, I looked for, the best of the best. I found this woman, I will leave her name out for the purposes of this podcast. And she was great when I met her. Everything was good. She was sharing helpful information. She was great support. We're going to come back to the doula later. So going through the pregnancy with my son was definitely rough. It had a lot of ups and downs. My asthma was still acting up, so I was in and out of the hospital a couple times. There were also certain things that I made it a little harder for myself during the pregnancy because, like, I listened to the doula where she was like, oh, the drinks that they have you do for the glucose test has so much dye in it, and it's not healthy for you or for the baby. And some people can opt to just prick themselves for a couple days and take their blood and test it. I was taking my blood for like a straight month or more because the levels were coming out crazy. And because I was told, like, she kind of scared me away from wanting to drink the drink about how nasty it was and how it makes people throw up and how it's bad for the baby. And I'm sure a lot of those things may possibly be true. But then I know there's a lot of people who have drank that drink and they were perfectly fine. Nonetheless, I kind of took the guidance of the doula. I decided to prick myself. I was taking my glucose for over a month before they finally told me that I could stop. And I did not have gestational diabetes. But what we did start noticing was my pressure would go up. Now, this is something that I did notice with my first pregnancy as well. I never had high blood pressure. And this is something I probably left out in the first video. I would continuously just randomly spike high blood pressures. Now, it kind of started for me, I want to say, with this pregnancy that we're discussing around maybe the middle of the second trimester. We started noticing, okay, your pressure is getting a little up there. Okay, your pressure is bordering. I think there were possibly a couple times I had to go to the hospital. go up to L&D because my pressure was higher than it was supposed to be. I was doing everything that I was supposed to for the most part, but I think I was overly cautious with this pregnancy. I was scared to work out. I was scared to do anything, to be honest. And I was just like really depending on this doula and listening to her and trying to do what she said. I was trying to do the stretches using the ball. I actually fell off the ball one time in trying to do like the stretches and stuff on the ball. Like I went to go and sit on the ball and I literally fell off the ball. Had to go to the hospital for that too in L&D just to make sure that everything was good and my son was good and I was good. Which was crazy. But yeah, I experienced a lot in that pregnancy. And it probably was not the best pregnancy. That pregnancy was tough between being in and out of the doctors, being high risk, having more sonograms, more doctor's appointments just for random things, hospital visits. But then we got to the birth on June 9th of 2023. I went to the doctors for one of my visits. My pressure was 156 over 104. My doctor said, absolutely not. You are going to get induced today. I was 38 weeks in a few days, and I think 2 days to be exact. And they sent me to the hospital. They're like, you have to get induced. So, I communicated this to the doula. Now, this is where I'm going to bring the doula back in because while I thought she was great, I thought she was all supported, she did not show up for me at the end like doulas are supposed to. I probably could have sued her for this, but I just checked it up to, what? It is what it is. All right. So the doctor told me it's time to go to the hospital. I contacted my doula first to let her know, we were trying and hoping that I wouldn't have to get induced. She had shared her birth story and it was similar to her birth story. She had to get induced and she was like, oh, well, don't let them do XYZ, whatever. So now we get to the hospital. My doula does not get to the hospital when my husband and I did. So when we got to the hospital, she was like, oh, well, they're going to do all these things to you. It's going to take hours. There's no sense in me coming. Now, my understanding is that a doula is a birth worker. And when you're paid in that capacity, you're supposed to be there for your client, regardless if they get induced, if they have a C-section, whatever the case might be. You're supposed to be there for your client from whenever they go into the hospital. Apparently, this doula told me that, oh, well, it's going to take hours for you to dilate. So I'll be there after, like once you dilate. But my thing is that if you know that there's different induction methods and you're supposed to help to be an advocate and help me to make decisions, why are you not there? Especially after you've been paid all this money, thousands of dollars. So, yes, she discussed the different induction methods with me, like as she was educating me throughout my pregnancy. However, when it was all said and done and it was time for them to do it, I swear to you, they did every induction method possible. So they started out with the drink. Don't remember what the name of it was, but whatever, was giving me the medicine via a drink. And I did go in 1 centimeter. I was 1 centimeter when I went in there. Nothing happened. So from the drink, they're like, okay, well, we need to put a Foley bulb in. They're asking me, well, do you want to get an epidural? I'm like, not really. I don't really want to get an epidural yet. I'm not in pain. I'm not contracting. They never told me that the Foley bulb was them literally putting like a balloon to manually open your cervix and it was going to hurt really freaking bad. So now they put this bulb in me and I did not have any pain medicine. It was extremely uncomfortable. And that was after they had been doing God knows how many cervix checks. Once they got this bulb in, and I was completely distraught in tears and cussing my doula out in my head because she was not there to help advocate for me and let me know that, hey, maybe you might want to get an epidural, or hey, do we really even need to go this method? Whatever. Went through that. And finally, I was like, no, give me the epidural because y'all done put me through a whole bunch of pain. So got the epidural. So we're there. Still not really progressing. Then they start Pitocin. Now, I was getting very high levels of Pitocin. I want to say like my labor in total was about 40. And surprisingly, I was calm. I kept my composure. I was clear-minded because I had to make decisions for myself. I didn't have my advocate there that I helped pay for. My husband didn't know what to do. My mother was there and she wasn't really aware of what to do. And again, keep in mind, my blood pressure was high. So I want to say at like hour 40, at some point, my blood pressure spiked up so high. It was like 167 something over 120 something. And it was disgusting. All I saw was doctors flying in. At this point, I was on level 20 of Pitocin. My doula had eventually got to the hospital after me calling her like after hour 24 or something, like, are you coming at all, like what's going on? She finally got there, and then it was just like she wasn't even much of a help. She kind of just sat in the corner, and it seemed like she was triggered, to be honest, by my experience, which was heartbreaking because, lady, I paid you. Yeah, and you're supposed to be here. Like, I feel like I didn't vet her enough, but I also didn't know what to look for, so I can't beat myself up now. We got to level 20 Pitocin, blood pressure sky high. They're coming in with potassium bags. And the doctor goes and tells me, oh, you can try to push, like, you can try for another hour. At this point, I was 9 centimeters. And I'm like, all right, my child is fine. I am not. My blood pressure is sky high. I'm on level 20 of Pitocin after having God knows how many different induction methods over the past 40 hours, laying in the same spot in the hospital because you can't eat, you can't really sleep, you can't do much of anything. And you're telling me you want to try for another hour. At that point, I said, just take him out. So I elected to have a C-section. It was not the way that I wanted to have a child, but it was the way that God intended it to be. And thank God that I decided to do that, because I was convinced these doctors were trying to kill me, because I just didn't understand like why they didn't even themselves say, okay, maybe we may need to start thinking about a C-section. Instead, they just kept pushing me with a whole bunch of Pitocin and pushing me with all of these induction things, because I think I was still drinking the drink as well at that point. And then my blood pressure is sky high. You have me on so much drugs, and you're going to tell me to keep trying for another hour. They really wanted to kill me. So at that point, I was done. I was over it. I had them take us in for the C-section. My husband had already gone through a lot, seeing me in so much pain and seeing me like this. My mother seeing me like this. And then we have this doula who was just sitting there crying in the corner. And she actually left once I said that I wanted to have a C-section. Like, gave me some halfway hug, and then I didn't hear back from her. I probably heard back from her maybe a couple days after the baby was like, oh, are you okay? Please, lady, please. Many of you may know I want to use a different word, but lady, please get on my face. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, you weren't there for me and I paid you. But it was a horrible experience. I don't wish that for anyone. But, we had a successful C-section. After the C-section, I was just shaking. I was shaking. I was shaking. They tried to get me to hold my son. I couldn't really hold him. I was like, take him away from me. I can't hold him. I can't stop shaking. And then I think I was just traumatized from everything my body had just went through. I didn't understand. I felt like my body failed me. I felt like the doctors failed me again. And I just couldn't understand. It was just a lot to comprehend in the moment, while also trying to live in this beautiful time. And it's crazy because after it was all said and done, the doctor came in and was like, oh, he was face up. And my thing is, okay, you guys did a sonogram to make sure the baby was head down. But why don't you think to check the position of the baby's face to see if they're turned sideways, if they're turned, head face up, face down, because all of that matters when going to give birth. I was not progressing in my contractions and in my labor because he was face up. So either way, my child would have needed a C-section to get him out of there safely, unless they had switched or turned him around, which at that point, I was not allowing no one to go into my body to do that. The amount of times they had went in to do service checks and this and that, and it was just too much. I was in the hospital for days. I think I was in the hospital for like 7 days. I think I had an infection post that, still had some high blood pressure. And I was just so upset. I was upset with the doctors for just, again, feeling like they failed me. I was upset that I had to have a C-section. I feel like I failed. I was just upset. I was sad. I just couldn't understand why things went the way it did. And it was just really sad for me, but I was also happy. I was blessed. I had a healthy baby boy and he was gorgeous. And I was just happy that, I was alive and I am still alive to tell that story. But that was the second pregnancy. Wait till y'all hear about the third when you just thought it couldn't get any worse. Thank you for tuning in with me. This has been an amazing episode. I know this one is a little bit longer, but this story is juicy. And it's a story that needs to be told. It's a story that I think needs to be heard. Also, I am sorry if this story also triggers anyone because it was triggering for me. It was traumatic for me. And my hope is that we can only just keep shedding light on Black maternal health. And my biggest thing is advocate for yourself. If you do nothing, advocate for yourself, or if you are a loved one, advocate for your partner, your family member, advocate for them as well. Ask as many questions as possible, inquire about it. If you got to go and look it up and then ask questions about it. Just don't let them do whatever they want to do to you and accept it. You need to know the full picture and know everything. In this next video, or next episode rather, we are going to talk about my third and I think my final pregnancy. I think I'm done. The shop is closed at this point. We're going to discuss that and dive in some more. So I'm excited to talk more with you guys. Thank you again for your energy, your time. I hope that you got something out of this. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below. If you would like to share your own story or a story of your loved one, leave a comment below or reach out to us via email. We would love to have you on to interview you and, make your voice heard. Like I said, unmuted voices where the silenced will speak. So until next time, guys. Thank you for listening to Unmuted Voices, the podcast. If today's story moved you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, your voice matters, your story is power, and you were never meant to suffer quietly. Until next time, everyone.